Ladies and gentlemen, a new version of Minecraft has been released. This is version 1.2.5 of the Bedrock version. That is the Minecraft version that runs on all Pocket devices on Xbox One and on Windows 10. My name is SlySlime. I'm here to take you on a comprehensive tour of the changes in this version. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Yes, there is no 1.2.4, we skipped directly to 1.2.5. Now, for gameplay changes, there is a new recipe book toggle that you can use to view the creative inventory in full screen mode. If you're playing with the mouse, you can select with the buttons at the top of the inventory. If you're playing with a controller, you can switch between the modes with the left and right triggers. There was an exploit as well that involved the use of encrypted skim packs that has been fixed in this version. Armor stands, they now wobble if you hit them, and they will ride in minecarts again. Standing signs didn't break properly when their support block was destroyed, they do in this version. And if you didn't have block breaking permissions, you can no longer break crops by jumping on them. The arrow marker on a map no longer becomes a dot if you walk out of the map bounds, and the tools will no longer lose durability faster than mobs take damage. If you use a chorus route to teleport, then fall damage will reset on every teleportation. Previously, you could sometimes take a tick of suffocation damage if you're walking backwards and placing blocks at head level. That is fixed in this version. You can no longer accidentally activate flying when trying to sprint in water with auto jump enabled in creative mode. Players will no longer spawn at the position of a destroyed bed when leaving the end. You will now instead spawn at the world spawn if your bed has been destroyed. Natural regeneration couldn't be disabled before on peaceful difficulty, it can now. The explosion resistance of slabs has been decreased, and lily pads can now be broken by boats when colliding with them from any direction. If you put a banner in an item frame, that no longer changes patterns depending on the banner that the player looking at them is holding. And if you have items on the cursor in the inventory and the inventory is full and you close the inventory screen, then those items will now be dropped instead of disappearing. Some fixes to redstone in this version too. Redstone repeaters facing into redstone dust will properly redirect the dust now. And observers facing each other will now output a steady repeating redstone signal, so you can now use observers to build a simple clock just like you can in Java Edition. Observers will now properly redirect redstone dust as well, and observers powering redstone dust will now power components adjacent to the dust properly. Pistons will no longer get stuck or break randomly in this version, and the timing of pistons interacting with other pistons have been fixed. Daylight sensors, they no longer output power at night when they have no view of the sky. Mob fixes in this version: hostile mobs will no longer spawn on top of or inside transparent blocks. Zombie pigmen no longer disappear immediately after spawning in the nether portals. Endermen, they will now only become hostile when looking at their heads, not their torso. And skeletons now turn before shooting, so no more insta-gib skeletons there. Creepers standing in double tall grass now deal an appropriate amount of damage to players. And finally, in terms of hostile mobs, the Ender Dragon can no longer get stuck in boats. Fixes for passive mobs as well: parrots no longer choose the same mob to follow repeatedly, and they will now react to the player being on fire in survival mode, but will no longer burn when perched on the shoulder of a player in creative mode. Parrots would also lose their sitting status when loading up a world, and the fix for this happened to also fix the fact that chickens would flap their wings directly when they spawn. Tamed horses, donkeys and mules can now be ridden immediately even if they were mounted while they were eating grass. Sheep that are spawned from breeding will now drop loot properly, and the spawn rate of ocelots has been slightly increased. Fixes to crafting: repeaters and comparators can now only be crafted using normal stone, not the other versions of stone. The bed recipe will now appear in the recipe book when only one ingredient is present in the inventory. Starting maps will now properly upgrade if you upgrade them on an anvil, and if you run out of materials for torches, books or bookshelves, the cursor no longer moves directly to another item. Other user interface fixes: the server tab now displays a loading bar when fetching the server ping and player count, and the hard-coded chat filter has been removed from the featured servers. Coordinates are no longer censored, so there are no longer any values that cause the coordinate output to show the censored signs, and in the settings the sliders can no longer be adjusted with the D-pad until you use the A button to select them if you're using a controller. Also, if you are editing a sign, that will now close properly when the virtual keyboard is closed. On the graphics side, if you're playing with a platform where you can access options.txt, that can once again be used to increase the render distance of the game beyond what is available in the menu. The main menu background now has a raised camera angle and it will scale properly depending on the aspect ratio of your device. And the camera no longer flickers along the y-axis after you teleport. Blocks moved by pistons used to leave a stretched graphical artifact that's fixed in this version, and items in item frames now get lit properly when viewed from all angles. Banner items were too bright, that's fixed in this version, and there were misplaced particle when breaking doors and gates, that's also fixed. Chests, pumpkins and stairs also didn't face the right direction when you held them in your hand, that's fixed in this version. And entities and particles are now properly lit in the nether when you're playing on split screen, and that one is for Xbox One only. A final glitch, non-full blocks will no longer appear as the full width of that block when you move the block by a piston. A few sound fixes, if you hit a mob it will now produce an impact or damage sound. The sound of throwing items has been fixed, and a corrupted audio loop when pointing at an item in an item frame in adventure mode has also been fixed. Some technical and behind the scenes stuff. There is now support for Windows mixed reality devices in the game and mixer interactivity. This means that in-game commands can now be linked to interactive buttons for viewers in a mixer stream. So when viewers interact on that page, the commands will be run in-game. If you want to know more about this, there's a link down in the video description for all the details. There's now also mobile broadcasting, so you can have native broadcasting for several streaming services. Just look for the new broadcast button directly in-game. There's also an issue where some owners of Minecraft on Android devices would be prompted to acquire a license, that's fixed in this version. And Xbox Live accounts with the communication and multiplayer settings set to blocked can no longer join a realm by using an invite link or code. There was an exploit there that could be used to work around that. There's some updates in this version for map making things as well, add-ons, commands, behavior packs. The Minecraft transformation component now has a keep owner property to allow for an entity to keep its original owner. Having the PvP game rule disabled will no longer make players immune to the /kill command, and the /clear command will now clear items from armor slots by item name if you provide them with that. Flowers and beds are now properly cloned by the /clone command, and using the /give command when the player's inventory is full will drop the items in front of the player instead. Also, arrows of decay can now be given using the /give command. Teleporting mobs and specifying rotations with the X rotation and Y rotation arguments didn't work properly before, it does in this version, and the names of players outside of render distance will now properly appear in command autocompletion when typing commands. Finally, with the marketplace there is a new content rating system, so if you like or dislike a piece of content from the marketplace you can go in and rate that content to tell others what you thought about it. There are also some world conversion fixes for Xbox One and a whole boatload of crash fixes. This update should be available from the App Store on your device right away when you are watching this video, so head in there and check it out and update the app through the normal update mechanics of your device. That is all for this time. My name is Sliced Lime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.